Hello guys, and we're going to continue setting up our draft site. So let's go ahead and open up draft site again. In this video I'm going to be talking about I'm going to be talking about units of measurement and setting up our CAD engine so that our changes persist, which by the way, from this point on, you probably want to create a prototype drawing. Let me close that out there. So if we go up here to File, you can just do Save As, and wherever you want to put your, it looks like the default directory is Draft Site Examples here. Yeah, program. Okay, yeah. So wherever it installed your program, you know, if you drill into it, you'll find an examples folder there. Or you can just put it on your desktop, which is what I'm going to do for right now. So I'm just going to rename it to Proto. And the reason I'm doing this is because anything that we do from this point on, any changes we make, they're going to be specific to the type of drawing that you use. In other words, from here, like if you wanted to create a whole new, you know, railroad layout, you know, you would open this Proto DWG, and then you could do another save as command and save it as, you know, my first layout. How about that? So, but for right now, all of our changes we want to put in this Proto drawing, so that for future reference, whenever we create, you know, a new drawing, we can use this to do all the configurations for us, and we don't have to go back through and reset everything back up. So up here, Proto drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to we'll go ahead and draw a line on the screen. Right click to end or escape, and if you select the line, first thing you notice is the line turns blue and you've got these three little boxes. Well, these boxes are actually called grips, and there's a way that you can grip edit an entity. This line would be known as an entity. You know, this circle that I'm drawing, that's an entity. So anything you put on the screen is known as an entity. So this line, this entity has three grips, and you can use those grips to edit the line. We're not going to do that right now, but if we select the line, we come down here, we notice that the length of the line that I drew is 10.1273. So, and we also see that the angle is 29 degrees. So if we want to change that, which I do, or at least the angle anyway, go back to Options and go to Drawing Set Settings. Go to this unit system here. So like the length is coming back to us in decimal form, and it was 4 places. If we change that to 2 places, hit apply. Now click on the line. We see it's 10.13. Okay, and I'm going to leave it 4 places. And so for the angle, instead of decimal degrees and the precision of 0, I'm going to change it to degrees, minutes, and seconds. And I'm going to change the precision to where it actually displays degrees, minutes, and seconds. And hit apply. So now if we click on it, 4 places here, but we see now we got 28 degrees, 38 minutes, 15 seconds. So this angle here is actually the angle turned off of the x-axis. So if I come in here and draw another line, let's do this. Let's draw a line, and I'll explain what I'm doing, clicking these buttons and stuff down here in the bottom, here at the bottom in a little bit, in another video. This angle here is 28, 38, 15. That's the angle turned counterclockwise, or left angle turned off the x-axis. Okay, that's not the behavior I want. The behavior I want it to actually turn to the right, or to measure from the right of my baseline. So if I go change that to clockwise, you can see here the setting here, the dial set to, you know, the baseline's going out this way along the x-axis. You could change it to where it's going straight up the y-axis, but I'm going to leave it on the x-axis, and I want the angles to be presented to me measured off that baseline in a clockwise angle. Hit apply. Okay, so now if I click on it, we can see the angles 331, 2145. So that's the angle turned off the baseline going clockwise like this. Okay. The other thing is, then this is kind of important, is that these settings I'm doing here under Unit System, these settings are applicable for the way the data is presented back to the end user. So in other words, like, we're looking at the information about this entity through the properties window, and this is configuring how it's presented to us here. Don't confuse that with setting up the drawing how you want the line to be, how you draft the dimensioning of that line, how your drawing has a dimension here dimensioning that line, how it's presented. It's not the same thing. It's for that unit. Go back in here again. Unit System, this is for how the information is presented back to you, and also how you input information, like down here at the command line. So not only can you get information about an entity through the properties window, but if you select the entity and type in LI for list, then you can get it in a in another window like that. So see, it's giving me the length here and then the angle here. Okay, so now on dimensioning a line, how we want it to be displayed. So if we go back to Options and this time we're going to go to Drafting Styles, and we want to go to Dimension, and here we're actually going to do linear dimension because we want a dimension along the line, right? So if we leave it, the default's decimal precision 4 places, right? So if we go up here to Dimension, go to Aligned, and you can see how that little yellow box pops up. When you go to do some type of draw command or edit command, there's different ways that, if you notice, I don't have to move my mouse cursor directly over the end of the line. I can just move it close, and what it's doing is it's snapping to the end of that line. I mean, can you imagine trying to sit here and get your cursor directly over the end of a line every time? And that's called, well, AutoCAD calls it object snap. This program calls it entity snap, which if you come down here to the bottom, these are like little dynamic functions of the CAD engine that you can use as you're drafting. So if you come down here, this one that has E, the ones that are active, by the way, are kind of highlighted in a light blue. If you hover over that, right click and go to Settings, then these are the way it's snapping to the entities on the screen. So see, we just saw endpoint. It'll snap to the midpoint, which is like it'll display a triangle. Nearest to be anywhere on that line. I'm not going to leave that one checked for right now. Just take the defaults. So back to drawing our line. We're going to draw from the end of this line to the end of this line. So there you go. You got your leader, and it's presented to you in decimal form, and it's carried out 4 places, right? So, but that's not really the way we want it to be. So I'm going to go back into Options, go back to Drafting Styles, Dimension, Linear Dimension, and instead of 4 places, we want 2. And we also want to show the foot mark. So on the suffix, we want it to append a single quote or the foot mark, and we're going to hit Apply and then OK. So now we see it says 10.13. Well, the actual length of the line is 10.1273, right? Remember that first configuration? We carried it out 4 places. So what this is doing is it's just rounding. In this case, it's rounding up for the dimension line. Okay, well, maybe you don't want to work in a tenths of a foot. Maybe you want to work, you know, in a fractional format. So if we go back, tools, options, drafting styles, dimension, linear dimension. So instead of decimal, we want architectural, and we want the precision to be round to the nearest 16th of an inch. Okay, and I'm going to take our little foot mark out there, and I'm going to hit apply. Okay, so now we see what happens. It says 10 1/8 inch, and we know that's not correct because the actual line is 10.1273. So back in options, if you select architectural, you will need to, here they got scale factor, it's really a multiplier, change that to 12, okay, because there's 12 inches in a foot. Hit apply. Okay, so now if we erase that and read dimension, well, there you go, it's 10 foot 1 1/2 inch. Okay, so if you notice, that still doesn't equal 10.1273, and the reason is because this number here, it's in tenths of a foot, and this number here is in inches. So a tenth of a foot is a tenth is a little bit longer than an inch. So you have 12 inches in a foot, right? Well, there's only 10 tenths in a foot. So the way that it's definitely the same length, it's just presented to you in a different unit of measurement. So the conversion on that would be, if you type in calc down here at the command line, it'll bring up the Windows calculator for you, which is kind of a nice feature. So the scale factor you would use on a tenth, in other words, in order to convert inches to a tenth, you would have to multiply the inches by 0.083, and the way that number is determined is if 1 divided by 12, 0.0833, right? So in our case, we have 10 foot 1 1/2 inch right here. Okay, so if we change that, instead of, you know, you can't work with fractions on a calculator, so, well, you can, they do have some calculators that do that, but in this case we don't. So we know that 1/2 inch is 0.5, so it's going to be 1.5. I'm converting this right here. This 1.1 inch is 1.5 times 0.083. You get 0.1245. Well, our line is 0.1273, so there's a little bit of rounding error going on in there, but that's how you convert, you know, inches to tenths. So if you choose, you know, to use inches like this for your dimensioning, and it doesn't equal this number down here, that's the reason why. You know, some people will do this and they'll be like, what? This is not the same number as this down here, and that's the reason why. Is because this is, you're getting this in inches, and you're getting this down here in tenths. So the other thing is on the dimensioning, on the dimension line, we want the text to be here. We want the text positioning to be above the dimension line. You can see these up here change to reflect what you're doing, and we want the text alignment, instead of being, you know, a line going across the screen horizontally, we want it to be aligned or parallel with the dimension lines. Hit apply, and there you go, 10 foot 1 1/2. So this line down here is 9 foot 11 5/8 inches. So, you know, if you're going to work in inches, you can leave it like this, or if you're going to work in tenths, you know, you would just change you would just change this back to decimal. Instead of architectural, you change it back to decimal. So I'm just going to leave it architectural for now. And so, yeah, that's it for this video. I think any more and it might be a little bit confusing. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.